Hello everyone, welcome back to another informative video, and I want to take this opportunity to just give you an update of what I've been doing in the new garden space. Now, if you have been watching my previous videos, you would have known that I have an excavated area. Now, what I've done is, and I've spoken about this in the past, is I've filled it in with horse manure compost, right? And this is what I have available, so I use what is available to me. Some of you might have other animal manure compost available, like chicken, sheep, goat, maybe your own kitchen scraps compost that you make, so all of that can use. But I have access to horse manure compost, so that is what I use. Now, remember I told you that I'm going to basically fill in the excavation with horse manure compost, right? So remember the horse manure compost that I had in the bags. Now I had about 12 bags. So I use up all of those and I got an additional 5 bags, and I use up all of that and I basically dump up the excavation, right? And not all the way to the top. It didn't bring it all the way to the top, right? Which is good. So what I did was dump up the excavation with the horse manure compost. Of course, it is not well composted, but you know, while it is there, it will also break down as well. But there is something that came to my mind when I was filling in the excavation with the horse manure compost, because one thing that we have to be mindful of with our growing medium is pH, right? And we don't want our growing medium to be too on the acidic side. We don't want it to be too alkaline. We want it to be between like 5.5, 6.5, thereabout. Now what I realized, or what came to my mind, was that this horse manure compost, it may be mildly acidic, like on the acidic side of the pH scale, not too much, right? More like mildly acidic. So what I've gone ahead and done is I bought some native soil, because one way to kind of correct or kind of raise the pH from an acidic state to a more plant tolerant state in terms of between 5.5, 6.5, or if you want to get it more alkaline basically, is to add lime. Now when I say lime, I don't mean the lime that grows on the tree. This lime is made from, of course, limestone rocks. That is the parent material, right? And what happened is the parent materials here where I live are predominantly limestone, right? And these limestone over time they break down, and whatever soil that forms, it has an alkaline pH, right? Because of course the limestone causes the pH to increase. And when I say increase, I mean increase going towards the alkaline state. So instead of maybe buying agricultural lime, maybe buying it online or buying it at the store, what I went ahead and did was basically to buy some of the native soil, right? I bought some of the native soil, and that native soil, if you should do a pH test of it, it would show a more alkaline soil. Now that soil is basically it is more like a sandy loam. What I did was when I based the excavation with the animal manure, what I did was I put some of the native soil with the animal manure, mix it in, just to kind of act as like a pH buffer. You know, like if it is if the horse manure is too acidic, then I know that the soil, the native soil that I had, will kind of even out the pH for me. It might not do it perfectly. What I did after is I also added some coconut coir, right? And of course the coir is going to help with water holding capacity. It's going to help with cooling of the root zone. It also will help with porosity. So I didn't want to overcompensate in terms of using too much native soil that will maybe cause the growing medium that I'm making to end up being too alkaline, right? So what I did was, mix it with topsoil that I bought at my local farm store. And now it is basically at a good level. I remember telling you that I'm going to add an extra 8 inches, right? Which I'm going to make like a board structure to raise it another 8 inches. I slept on it, I thought about it, and I'm saying, I have roughly about 2 feet of depth already. Most of my vegetables, they don't need that depth because they're basically a shallow root vegetables. However, I think 2 feet is more than enough to grow some of the tubers that I love, like sweet potato, Irish potato. That depth is good enough, right? So I have decided not to do that additional 8 inches, right? So what I have done is, instead of filling the excavation right up to the surface level, I basically left out maybe about 4 inches. For me, it also gives me additional room if I want to add some more compost in it, or if I want to do any kind of organic soil amendment, like for example putting in some more animal manure. So it gives me some depth to play with, right? And then now the fact that where I am is hot, I want to kind of retain as much moisture as possible. So having that excavation and having the soil below the surface level, whatever water that goes into it, it will basically kind of contain it, right? Instead of bringing the soil to the surface level, where when I water the plants, or if I plan to kind of soak the bed, the water will basically run over into the walkway or anything like that, and basically those water running over will be of no use to me, right, in the bed area. So hence those are some of the reasons why I just kept it about 4 inches below the surface level. Every step of the way, everything I added, it's like I ensured that the basic things that you need in a growing medium is there. So I ensure that it had proper aeration, right? I ensure that the organic content is good as it relates to adding animal manure, which is the horse manure compost that I have, and like it have good water holding capacity, because compost helps to improve your water holding capacity. And it's like when you are dealing with a growing medium, a few of the most important things that you are basically considering is good water holding capacity, good nutrient holding capacity, good aeration, right? That is basically, and those are basically some of the most important things that you need to consider. And then together, all of these will add proper structure to your growing medium. Now, of course, before I plant, maybe about 2 weeks before I plant in these areas that I'm preparing, I'm going to add, maybe some, worm castings, some more organic stuff to build the structure. Maybe I'll try callaloo first, right, and see how they grow. So I think I'm going to do that. Maybe about 5 or 4, just to test the area, to see what is going on, because it is finished. The area is finished. The excavated area is finished. So I'm basically going to focus now on designing other areas, right? Remember that plant box that I need to make at the sides, right? At the 2 sides of the apartment. Yeah, I'm going to design those. One of the aim in setting up this garden is, and I know you would have understood this, from previous videos that I spoke about, because I'm also cognizant of the temperature. It is very hot, so the things that I do with this garden, it's for a purpose. I definitely have to understand how I place my plants, what I grow where, and see what can create shade for other plants. You have some plants that grow tall, and they can also create shade for low growing plants that are don't need too much sunlight. So just bear with me on this, just follow me on the journey, because there's a lot to be learned. You know, everything that I do, it can be a learning experience for you. It is a learning experience for me as well. I don't know if I told you this before, but I'll be getting some palms to put in strategic locations within the garden based on how the sun comes up and how it is kind of hitting the garden, just to kind of create a microclimate within that area that is I would say, you know, kind of reduce the impact of the sun in terms of reducing the temperature and reducing the intensity of the sun. So I have those to do, and as I said, I have the other boxes to make. So I'm basically just structuring the garden now, and also, you know, that I have the little nursery area that I'm going to do. So at the end of the day, it is not a overnight thing. So it will take some time, and I will update you as I go along, right? But I am very pleased with where I am now. As I said, I'm finished with that area. I'm finished with that excavated area. I'm super excited about this journey, and that is why I describe it as a journey, because it is a journey. It is not overnight thing, as I said. Yeah, thanks again for sitting in this one. Again, subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you again in another video.